Okay, same date, May 15th, 2022. I've been up since 2:30 this morning, people. Or was it 3:30? Anyway, by 3:30, I know for sure by 3:30, I was running around getting into this paperwork. I can't stand dust. I'm doing a video, Andre. Be quiet. I can't stand dust. And I haven't been in War Room 1 for a long time. So, before I can sit down and get into the hum, I'm wiping, I'm crawling underneath, and I'm wiping the floor, and I'm sticking, and I'm wiping the vent, and, you know, the air vent, right, the one that goes on the wall, and I'm dusting, and I'm along the books as much as I can. I didn't do as much as I wanted to, but I didn't have a lot of time, but I did some of it, so, and I'm pretty much got, I mean, I just created a mess somewhere else with the paperwork, but at least I'm moving it, and I'm, you know, I got all the nonprofit, well, not all of it, but I've got a fair amount of folders, whatever, right? Anything related to nonprofit in its own box now, because, you know, I picked from here and there, and then I found some stuff that, thank God I found it, because it's actually what I need to do with HSBC Bank. So, over the next couple of days, I got to find time to get on that, right? And, but the reason I'm doing this video is I found, and trust me, I have been looking for this, oh God, probably since Sierra died, even before Sierra died. When was this dated? Now, I'm trying this pair of glasses. I think it's this pair of glasses. I never know. I don't know. Maybe it's this pair of glasses. I'm having a rough time. You know, these ones I can't see nothing with. I got ripped off, with those glasses, huh? I'm serious. I guess it's these ones. I can kind of see, right? This is the sergeant. I'm pretty sure. I didn't write it down. But this was the sergeant. I'm looking for the date on this letter. There should be a date on it. I enclosed a copy of the amended response to civil claim filed on April 11th of 2018 for service upon you. Oh yes, this was April 11th. Okay. Oh, I can't see, people. Where's my finger? Okay, there's that. You can see. Okay. Alright, this is regards Chorney versus CIBC at the Vancouver Registry. There's the court number for that. Where's my finger? I don't know. Boy, I'm having such a hard time. Nothing works. Camera doesn't work. Anyway, there it is. You can see it. Right there. Okay? And this is the card. Of the sergeant when Shimei was hauled out of here. And if you notice the date, how convenient, April 11th of 2018. They served me on the day, people, that Shimei was murdered, and it was covered up by basically that sergeant. Before I really started to figure things out, I was telling this sergeant, as things were going on downstairs with Shimei at the time, I got this after or before, one or the other. I'm sure I did a video on it. I probably even read it, but I want to read it again, okay? Because that judge who was supposed to waiver my fees because I'm one of the poorest of the poor in all of British Columbia, Canada, instead turned it into a little mini trial with Andrew the Dragon, the lawyer for Fraser Health Authority, and then tried to throw it out, but because I was citing the Criminal Code of Canada and, you know, provincial legislations and regulations and rules and acts and all that other crap, you know, he got flustered and told me to take it to the cops. So on the day when Shimei was dead in the basement and everybody was running around doing what everybody was doing, that cop, I said, look, you know, this judge told me to take it to you guys, but I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to do, right? You know, and he says, I'll just gather everything up and give it to me. He said, give it to me. That's why he gave me his card. So I could pass along all the stuff that I was supposed to pass along to the courthouse so that he could investigate it. Now, keep in mind, this dude cued Julian to start acting crazy, and immediately Julian, and then that cop told me to take Julian down the frickin' hall into Shimei's room and calm him down, which was not my responsibility, but you do what you're told. I didn't know what to think, people. When I left, they were on the vinyl floor doing whatever they were doing. And, you know, Julian kept me occupied for a little while with his fake hyperventilating. Anyway, by the time I was done dealing with Julian, I was coming back down the hall and I got to the laundry room door. And just as I got to the laundry room door, I turned and I looked, and that's when I seen those 6 men carrying Shimei's body out in a hammock. 3 on each side, as they were going out the laundry room door. Now, I know for a fact that they can get gurneys down there, people, because Joan was being taken out in a gurney every 2-3 weeks when she lived in this house. They had no problem taking Joan out in a gurney, but they had, what? They were hiding their perfusion machine, people. That's what they were doing, okay? And that sergeant, he knew it. I didn't know it at the time, but I figured it out, okay? More reason to keep with the good fight. Because, like that dude over there, the one that went missing in action for over 22 days, nobody knows where he is, including the cops, even though they had 50 freaking military police with guns and dogs and smoke bombs and freaking flash grenades and bullets and all kinds of crazy crap going on out there. But we seen that white vehicle. We know why it was designed in the manner that it was designed, okay? We know, people. That's why everybody's being mum about it right now. They don't know how he escaped. He either escaped or he just wasn't there. And everybody's acting dumb around it. Okay? Yeah, okay. No, we know what happened. I'd be very surprised. And even if that woman came and told me, oh yeah, he's alive, I don't know. I don't know if I believe it in terms of the cover-up, because for all we know, she might get paid off yet. Anyway, I don't see as well as I was hoping to with these glasses, but some eyesight is better than no eyesight. So I'm going to read this, which was dated on the day that my daughter was murdered and delivered to me. Okay? From the lawyer for CIBC Bank, in terms of their response to what I handed to them with my amended notice of civil claim, although they got the official, which at some point, people, I will put it on a PDF file and I will upload it online, and I will provide links to it so that you can read the whole thing. It's not perfect. I never had anyone proofread it. I ran out of time, right, in terms of me proofreading it. You know how you write something and you let it sit, you write, right? It should have, I needed a couple of more months just to, anyway, don't worry about it. I made an attempt to do an amendment, but this is the response. Now, it may or may not be up online because sometimes YouTube takes down these types of videos because they're protecting somebody. They're not protecting me. They're not protecting Uncle John. They're not protecting the kids. They're not protecting anybody except maybe a fucking corporation or someone like Eleanor, John's sister. Okay? So, you can see this is what my government considers to be frivolous. Amended response to civil claim. Now, keep in mind, I've never written a lawsuit. I've never read a lawsuit. I tried to find lawsuits so that I could use it as a base in terms of a guide, but they're really hard to find online, right? And the one or two or three that maybe I found, I mean, like, for as much critiquing as I got for being wordy, right? Well, those ones were more wordy than mine, okay? So, you know, it's insult after insult, right? In terms of when you go to court, they insult you. They literally insult you. Go into my videos, I talk about it. They mock you, they insult you, they gaslight you. You know, they threaten you, well, you know, you're going to end up owing costs and this and that, and just whatever. Oh, my eyes are so bugged out, man, you don't know. Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, the defendant, or CIBC. Part 1. Response to Notice of Civil Claim Facts. Oh, yes, as I was saying, when I started writing the lawsuits, right, because one couldn't have done what one did without the help of the other. Fraser Health couldn't have done what they did to John and get away with it if CIBC Bank didn't help them. It's the same thing with CIBC Bank. They couldn't have done what they did with John's account and what they did to me and what they did to John and I, right, without Fraser Health Authority's staff assistance. Okay? Because you have to remember that famous hammock, all right, is still in the picture, people. That's how they transported John to Victoria. I walked into the room on the day that they were moving him. There was a whole bunch of people around his bed, and there was a hammock there, the same hammock that he had when I went on the day when they moved him from the halls downstairs, upstairs, and I did that interview with him, and he had the hammock at the end of the bed because they were drugging him, people. Okay? They were drugging him. And because of his legs and stuff, just whatever. So they literally drugged him up, put him in the hammock, freaking put him probably in Eleanor's freaking van, went on the ferry. John slept on the ferry at the bottom of the bowels of the ferry in that fucking hammock. They got to the other side, and as he was waking up, he freaked out. They knew he would because he didn't want to go, and they immediately rushed him to the Victoria General Hospital and said, "Look how we found him." Have that on recording with his niece telling that to Shimei, people. That he was so sick. Well, if he was so sick, why were you taking him out of a temporary care ward that he had been in for like freaking 20 days, not to mention the amount of time that he was spending in the hospital? Right. Well, you know, because they were stealing his money, people. Anyway, just keep in mind, that's how they transported him, in a hammock, under sedation of opiates, and then they immediately rushed him to the Victoria General Hospital and kept him there for over 3 months as they were wheeling and dealing with the fucking bank. Okay? Transferring that inheritance that he was never told about for 14 months until he got the Surrey killer flu. And because I didn't want him to die on me because of dehydration and sleeping, I thought I made the right decision by having him go to the hospital in a non-emergency sense. Because we loved him and we wanted him to live. We sure in hell didn't want him to be abused and mistreated and locked away like a dirty freaking secret and robbed completely of everything, including his cup that he had his pennies in, people. And then once on the other side, they started putting out the new rumor that I stole his wallet. I'm talking to the lawyer, trying to get the lawyer involved because John told me to go get a lawyer. But he can't really act on it until he hears it from John himself. But they're not letting him talk to Paul. They're not forwarding the messages to John. John's blind. John doesn't have a cell phone. John's in a wheelchair, not allowed to get up and walk around. They never let him talk to Paul, people. They didn't even tell him that Paul called. So in the meantime, Paul's doing the most that he can do, right? And he came back and he told me, "Oh, well, you know, they're threatening to call the police on you." I said, "Call the police on me for what?" "Oh, did you steal his wallet?" I said, what the fuck? Why the hell would I steal? His wallet is in a box right here, people. Same wallet he's had ever since I've known him. This is what I mean. Right? If they weren't accusing me, whispering in the halls, all those fucking immigrant workers, wherever they fucking came from, with just whoever, they were all immigrant workers, people. Okay? "Oh, you know, you're stealing John's money. You're abusing the elderly." Right? No, they were the ones that were stealing John's money, people, and they got freaking a large portion of them got paid off. Got that video with John saying, "I want to see the kids," right? The kids are there finally because Paul told him maybe this is where you better go before they move him. So Marcaine and Shimei went to the hospital. They were only in there for 20 minutes before that bat out of hell showed up, telling John that he wasn't allowed to talk to kids. John, you know that. You're not allowed to talk to the kids. You're not better yet. If he's not better yet and he's not allowed to talk to the kids, then why the fuck was CIBC Bank cutting backroom deals with his inheritance that he was never told about, people? But you see, I gave CIBC Bank the benefit of the doubt. That's why I thought when I first started out with these lawsuits to separate them. You know, don't broad brush, right? Because the bigger onus was on Fraser Health, right? In my opinion, okay? Perhaps the bank got suckered into it, but they knew what they were doing. You see, that's the thing. I caught them doing it, people. Okay, they profit big time off this shit. All right? And but in the beginning, I didn't know, right? I just went on my gut. And my gut said at that time to file them separately. Because you have to remember, John and I had been with that bank for 25 freaking years. Okay? We were long-standing customers, more than 25 years. Both him and I. So I had no reason to mistrust the bank, per se, outside of it was starting to get kind of funky, right? And then as I started going through the paperwork, as I was writing these lawsuits, putting two and two together, that's when I discovered there was mail fraud, right? His mail was illegally transferred, okay? I have the documentation. That's when his sister sent me some one signature note, not even 2 sentences long, telling me that my power of attorney has been revoked. That's not the way you do it legally, people. Okay? The bank had ample time to take me to court to remove me. They didn't do it. They didn't use the guardian and public trustee. None of them. Okay? They just thought I was just some dumb, I guess you could say, fucking crackhead. Oops, sorry, boo-boo crackhead. Okay? Right? Somebody that was going to end up homeless probably sooner than later if they had it their way. Because they sure in hell were trying to implode my house and destroy it. And they didn't care where we went. Because they were chasing that love of money. But I felt that the onus was more on Fraser Health Authority than it was for CIBC Bank. And I was hoping, of all hopes, people, that CIBC Bank would have done the right thing and would have gone outside of the particular banks that were involved and investigate what the heck went on and put people, either fire them or put them in jail and correct their system. You know when you phone a bank and they tell you that they're going to verify your voice, they're going to verify who you are through your voice? Don't do it, people. Don't do it. Because that's how they cheat. That's how they end up cheating, because that's what they did here. At some point, they got John up on the phone, sitting up somewhere under lock and key, being drugged, quite possibly receiving freaking shock therapy, because he was in a really bad state for a long time, people, because of the shock of what they did to him. Okay? And as a matter of fact, even Eleanor's daughter, John's niece, said they weren't sure if he was going to make it after they moved him over there because of what they boo-boo did to him by taking him away from us. Okay? And they almost killed him. All right? And, but at some point, they got him on the phone because, he can't walk, right? He's in a wheelchair. They don't want him walking around too much. I think they took him out one time to go see his mom, which the kids would have done anyway, because he was planning to go see his mom in July, right? Because of her 100th birthday. So anyway, agreeing to whatever it is that they were dictating to him. Because they had him cornered. They had him, people. Right? He was sitting there, old man, blind as a bat, worse than me, can't see less than me, right? Bad legs, bad back, right? Been on drugs for months and months and months because they keep feeding him drugs that he hadn't been on for over 20 years. You have to remember, Uncle John was on no drugs for 20 years, people. Okay? He was a whippersnapper, always tried to keep up with the kids. His motto was, keep on walking. Okay? Until he showed up at the fucking hospital. And then they started doping him up, and his legs seized up. And then that was their cue to do what they did. So eventually they got him to verify via, I think, probably a phone to steal his money. Right? As they're rewriting his will, a will that he had from 1995, all of a sudden, as soon as he gets to the hospital on the other side of the freaking ocean, he's writing a new will, okay? When he's not fucking, sorry, boo-boo's sleeping. Sleeping, as his niece would have said, like she did say on the phone when talking to Shimei. All he does is sleep. Oh, I wonder why, because you guys were doping him up so that he wouldn't holler out crying for the kids and me. As you're cutting backroom deals with a bank that both John and I trusted, people. And I did. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. But after I got this, it was plain to see. They were more involved than I'd like to think that they were. They were always involved. Because Uncle John is just the tip of the iceberg. This is what I'm trying to tell you. And they use certain employees, the same employee, over and over again to do funky, like bad BO, funk smell, funky crap. So they can tweak their internal files. To get that mission accomplished. As they destroy lives. I thought, I haven't seen this for over 2 years. I have been looking, tearing my place apart for this. Honest to God, I swear. On my mother's life, my grandmother's life, Shimei's life, Sierra's life, Uncle John's life, even Joan's life. Okay? I've been looking for this for like 2-3 years. Because this was given to me on the day that Shimei died. And I found it today, people. I found it today, just by chance. Just by chance. And the funny thing is I looked there before. That's the funny thing. I looked there before, and I'd never seen it. I thought maybe Sierra stole it. I did. Because there was a time when, you know, she coming around here and there, right? She stole Shimei's phone. It was either Sierra stole Shimei's phone, the one that the cops gave back to me.
Or Chrissy's daughter.
The one that Julian had for over 24 hours and ruined the port. Or maybe it was the cops who ruined the port. I don't know who ruined the port. All I know is I couldn't access the phone because we didn't have the password. The cops wanted it anyway, so we gave it to the cops. And then when they gave it back to us, they told us that they couldn't get into it because the port was broken. But that would have been Julian, because that was pretty much a new phone, because that was a replacement phone that Julian's sister had stolen, and Shimei's dad had replaced that phone that was stolen by Julian's sister with the phone that the cops ended up giving back to me. And then I put it over there, and then I don't know if Sierra just wandered in one day, grabbed it because she seen it, or if it was my neighbor's daughter that was kind of around off and on back then. Go check on Amari, please.
Chrissy's daughter, Chrissy.
Yeah, we know. Go check on Amari, because I had him sitting up and I penciled him in, but he's getting fast. Okay? Just make sure he's not throwing things and getting near the edge there. So, right? So don't do these voice things. Seriously. Okay? Don't ever allow it to happen. Because that's how they cheat. So when I phone up the bank and, oh, we're going to use your voice to verify who you are, I say, no, don't you dare. Don't you dare. I will never, ever allow that to happen. Because I know what can happen because of it. So anyway, that's how CIBC Bank got their own lawsuit, because I actually, in my heart of hearts, was hoping that they would do the right thing. And because they had the resources to investigate the employees from the various banking institutions that were involved with this process, they would have protected John and held Fraser Health Authority to account. But they didn't, people. They didn't do that. Instead, they took the money and then they tried to hide the dirt on how they got it. Okay? As they were accusing me of abusing John. Just like the Fraser Health immigrant staff were running around whispering in the hall, accusing me of abusing John by stealing his money or whatever. It was money. It was all I had to do with fucking money, right? And the bank started to accuse me of stealing John's money, even though I had been doing the banking since 1990. Right? That's how I ended up being enduring power of attorney. I came back, he bought me my car in Alberta. He came to Alberta and got me. I drove back with John and my 2 kids, right? Went and stayed at John and Joan's house for a couple of weeks until I found a little house. Then I rented the house, right? And because he had a little bit of money that he inherited through a car accident, you know, he helped me buy a little bit of furniture, right? And don't forget, I was at John and Joan's house for the first 2 weeks before I got this little house, okay? And then he wanted me to go get him a bank account, and he started telling me all his woes about how Joan was bankrupting him, and this was like the second time, and blah, 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 and he wanted, eventually after I'm living in this house now, it's going into the 11th month, and he's saying, I'm going to jump out the window, I can't live with Joan no more, blah, 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 and I'm like, so anyway, I helped him to get his own bank account, and I just told him, just, pay your bills, and what are your bills, right? Just don't let her close credit cards. That's what I told him. Just close credit cards and just get a handle on what you have, right? Don't get no more, because she bankrupted him like 3 times, people, 2 times. She bankrupted him twice. She bankrupted herself like 2 freaking times, because you have to remember, she had severe mental health issues, and she was bulimic and anorexic her whole life. And she didn't like to clean, and she was like every 2 weeks dying of something. Okay? And then I moved into another little suite. Like, I moved out of that little house because they sold it. And I moved into an apartment, and he used to come over, and in those days he was taking Tylenol, right? Because of the past car accident that he had. And then because I had left Vancouver, or Victoria, because I had left Victoria because of what my family was doing after my mom died, right? He was depressed, people. I was his rock. I was the one that inspired him to stay strong and not be depressed. So while I was gone in Vancouver, and then I even went to Alberta for 5 months after the fact, these doctors, they're prescribing just drugs, right? Tylenol 3s. He was popping Tylenol 3s like freaking candy, and he had all these other drugs and whatever. And I said, Jesus Christ, when I got back, right, from Alberta with him picking me up, and he showed me all these different pills he was on. I said, John, you got to stop this. This is not good for you. No wonder why you want to jump off the balcony. Like, you need to cut back on, at least start with 1. So he started with 1. He stopped. Okay. And then he quit another one. I don't know how many he was on, 3 or 4 of them, right, for depression and all this other shit. And then the Tylenol 3s. That was the last one that he stopped. But it got to the point where he was getting he was attacking me, right? Because he had this issue where, I don't know, I guess he was sleeping with Joan. It happened more than one time. He'd, in his sleep, grab her, and he couldn't let go, right? He would just grab like this, right? But you have to remember, Joan was a pill popper, and misery likes company. She encouraged John to pop pills. So John's, right? So anyway, I don't know. After a couple of times of, one time, when I moved in with him, the first week, because he wanted to get away from Debbie and Joan because they were abusing him, being mean. And they were ganging up. And he was doing all the work. And like I said, Joan was bankrupting him again. And they were picking on him all the time, and he wanted to jump off the bridge. And even though he had cut back on his pills and all this other crap, he was still on the Tylenol 3. I said, okay, fine, John. I'll help you get your own place. And I'll help you look around, and you can live by yourself, and you have your own apartment, and you'll do fine. Oh, no, I can't see, we should be roommates. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine, because I'm in this little freaking apartment, and he wouldn't shut up about it. He just wouldn't freaking shut up about it. So eventually we got this house on Marigold. And I hadn't even been there a week, a couple of days. I moved everybody in. Like, I moved my kids. I had 3 by this time. Marcane was just a baby, right? Like 2 years old or something. Or, I don't know, maybe a year. I don't know. Anyway, he was in his crib. And he was like young, right? And then I had Brooks and Sierra. And so I left. I went out because, I'm the one that did all the work, people. John was literally blind, okay? Couldn't read, couldn't do paperwork, couldn't do any of that. His favorite things to do were dishes, feed the animals, hang out with the kids, look after the kids, make coffee, make tea for me, take out the garbage, feed the raccoons, go walk the kids to school and back, because I had Blue too, right? My dog, our dog. And that was his, right? He'd do the morning shift, I would do the night shift. And it worked out really well for a long time. Anyway, so after I moved everybody in, I said, I'm going out. I'm young, I'm going to the bar. So I go to the bar, and I end up bringing home this fella, right? And he was a big guy. He was like 6 something, right? And, buffed, right? And I don't know what the heck got into John. It was those Tylenol people. I'm telling you. Right? He got all freaked out, whatever, started to pick a fight with me. Next thing you know, he's chasing me around the freaking house. Literally chasing me, okay? Grab my hair, pull me down to the freaking ground, right? This guy, he watching this. He doesn't know what to think, so he goes off and he hides underneath something. He literally goes and freaking hides underneath something to get away from this rage that was going on with John, right? And so by this time, I'm like, fuck this shit. Like, I don't know who the hell you think you are. But if you think you're going to do this crap, you got another thing coming. All right? And so I'm now going into where John was going to stay, right? In terms of a room, because it was a 2-story house. But I had to gut out the basement first before I could move John downstairs, right? So that Joan could come over and visit and they could have their own kitchen. It was a suite, but it needed to be cleaned and gutted, right? So I couldn't move him downstairs right away. That's why we rented the house. Only thing was we rented it, and when they took us through the basement, they rushed us through so fast, I didn't see what the hell was down there other than, oh, there's a kitchen. Oh, there's a spot for a table for Joan and John. Oh, there's a living room. Oh, there's a bathroom. Oh, there's a bedroom for John, right? You know what I'm saying? And then I'm upstairs. That was the plan. But within the first week, he was up in a different room that I was going to turn into a sewing room, right? But he was chasing me all over the place, man, and pulling my hair. Like, he ripped out a whole bloody bag of hair that night, people. You know those brown paper bags? It was full of my freaking hair that he ripped out of my head, because he was chasing me around the freaking house for whatever reason, just going crazy, right? And I said, to hell with this shit. You're out of here. You're out of here. So I went into that bedroom, right, that I was going to turn into a sewing room. And I started packing up his shit. He didn't have a lot, but I packed up his shit, whatever he came with, that his wife let him fucking leave with. And he grabbed me and he, again, pulled me onto the fucking bed, boo-boo bed, ripping out my hair, like this, right? Anyway, I got him off me, right? Grabbed his shit, pushed him off, right? Ran to the door, and I threw it out the stairs, off onto the ground, into the yard. All of it. It just went flying all over the place. Phoned his wife, right? Tell him to call a taxi and get him out of here. I'm not living with him. She did. She called a taxi. Taxi came, helped him pick up all his shit, took him back to Joan's house, and you know what that woman did? She sent him back to me the next freaking day. Okay. She sent him back to me. And then I'm like, all right, don't you do that again. Well, he did. When we moved over to Vancouver, again, I don't know, he was still taking his Tylenol 3, right? But after we left that other house on Marigold, we ended up moving into a townhouse and lived there for a year or whatever it was. And he attempted one time to, and I, don't you dare touch me, because you will never see me again if you touch me. Like, physically be abusive, right? And so he backed off. But when I had to leave again, I left twice. I left Victoria twice, people. Okay? First time I went on my own after my mom died, right? I told you that. I was in Vancouver for almost 2 years or whatever it was, right? Trying to start a company or whatever, sewing and whatever, right? Then I went to Alberta for 5 months to take Brooks, my oldest son, out there to go see his dad, right? And then because, I was out there all by myself and it was freezing and and John says, oh, you've been away so long, come back, I'm so depressed. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing any better sitting up here in Alberta in 40 below weather. So he says, well, I'll buy you a car and I'll come get you. And I said, okay. So that's how I ended up back to Victoria. So I lived there for a couple more years, right? I lived on Foul Bay for the 1 year, and that's when I first got back. I spent 2 weeks at John and Joan's apartment with Debbie in there, and then I got the house. But because John was having so many problems with Joan, he was asking for advice and what he can do, and he wanted to go out on his own, and he had already gone bankrupt, and she was just going mad nuts because she was bulimic, people, right? And she just doing crazy shit. And I said, well, get your own account. So we got him an account. I got an account because I just came in from Alberta. And, and then over a period of time, he wanted to go, he wanted to leave. And I said, well, I'll help you get your own suite. No, I can't, I'm going to jump off the balcony. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. Well, why can't I live with you? And, we'll be roommates. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's what you want, I guess, because otherwise it can't carry on like this. I'm not going to listen to you come over and whining all the time, telling me that you want to jump off a freaking balcony. Right? So then we made plans, and we ended up getting the Marigold. So now this is my third place since I've been back. And then after we lived in Marigold for a year, because those owners decided to sell, that's another story. Then we ended up into the townhouse, and then I lived there for a bit, a year or more, I don't know, 15 months or whatever it was. And this was my second time. I said, John, I can't do it here. I just can't. It's just, right? There's not enough activity. I need to go back to this big city and try it one more time in terms of working on my outfits and stuff, people. Right? John said, well, I'm coming. I said, well, are you sure? Because you can go back to Jones, because I can't stay here. I tried it. You asked me to come back. I came back. I've been here for 3 years or whatever it's been by this time, and it's not working. I have to go back to Vancouver and try it again. He said, oh, no, I'm coming. And because I had allowed some native girl to stay with me, she moved in. And as soon as she moved in, turned out she was already 7 months pregnant. She didn't tell me until after she moved in because I had an extra room to rent, right? John had his area. I was upstairs with the kids, and I had an extra room upstairs, right? And she needed it because she was facing homelessness. But after she moved in, it turned out her name was Cheryl. After she moved in, it turned out she was 7 months pregnant. But I said, well, I'm leaving. I'm not staying here, right? Like, you and John can go be roommates if you guys want to stay. I have to leave. And they both wanted to come with me. So what ended up happening is Shimei's dad ended up loading up the truck for me, the U-Haul, big one, and drove it across on the ferry. Right? That was Shimei's dad. That was before I was pregnant with Shimei. I got pregnant with Shimei soon after that. And when we moved into Wally's house, after we were in Westminster for 3 months, and then I found Wally's house, take the house now, stay as long as you want, right? We moved in there, but he was still taking those Tylenol 3s, people. And then it was Christmas Eve, and Wally wanted John and I to go to the house and have Christmas drink with him and Pam, his wife. And I'm like, but I was pregnant, right? And I'm like, well, gee, John, I don't really want to go, And Cheryl's saying, well, you need to go because she came over with us too, right? So, and I'm like, and John says, well, yeah, well, landlord, let's just go for a Christmas drink. And I'm like, okay, I'll have one drink. Okay. So we end up over at Wally's house having a Christmas drink. I go outside for a smoke. John's out there, Wally's out there. Pam's running around doing whatever Pam's doing. And then, I don't know how much John drank, but he just turned into a freaking demon that night, people. He got me arrested, literally. Okay? So, after we're done with Wally's, we go back to the house. And, right? I don't know. We was arguing over something, right? I go downstairs. He's laying there on the bed. And I said something to him because, we're arguing, right? You know how people are. And I'm like, blah, 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 right? And he says something. And I'm like, something. Next thing you know, he was so fast. Reached out, grabbed my hair, pulled me down on the bed. And that was it, people. It was freaking on. We fought like cats and dogs, probably for a good hour or more, as Uncle John was running around chasing after me like a mad Dickens throughout that whole house. Because he was like an energized, ever-ready battery. He caught me on the stairs, caught me. I'm running, trying to get away, right? After I got out of, my hair, right? Twice he pulled out my hair in big bags, right? And I got off because he pulled me down onto the bed 2 times, right? One at the Marigold and then one at Wally's house, right? And I got away. And as fast as I got away, he got up and started running, chasing me. I was on the stairs. He grabbed my ponytail, pulled me down on the stairs, right? We're wrestling on the stairs. And then somehow, some way, I got on top of him. Or was he on top of me? I don't know. All I know is, through it all, I ended up biting him a few times, people, because I couldn't get away from him. Right? So, fight or flight, right? John was strong, okay? And I guess being on Tylenol 3 makes you superhuman or something. Because he just wouldn't stop. And the only way I could try and get away was by biting him. Only it didn't work, right? And so anyway, it got to the point where I had him pegged with a chair. When you pick up a chair and You hold it like that, don't move kind of thing. I had him down, and instead, because he had me, like he'd be on me, right? Doing whatever, right? And pulling my hair and just whatever, right? You know? And then eventually I had the upper hand. You know, he'd have the upper hand, I'd have the upper hand. Because he kept coming after me. He just wouldn't stop, right? That's why I bit him more than one time, because I'd be like sitting there, next thing you know, right? You know what I'm saying? and then eventually I had to take the chair and hold him like that and tell this girl to call the freaking cops, because he wouldn't stop, right? Oh, I did. I said, good. We waited for the cops. They took one look at John, asked how old he was, and arrested me, and said I could have killed him because I bit him, even though he was the one running around attacking me for over an hour, more than once, and ripped out all my hair. Okay? That was the Tylenol 3s, people. Because after that, okay, I went to jail. I've only been in jail in a cell once in my life, and that was because of Uncle John, okay? I was calling out, what time is it? When, you know? Anyway, they released me at 7 in the morning or whatever the hell it was. I get home. I looked at John. I said, you ever do that again to me, that's it. You will never see me and the kids again. He admitted that he did wrong and what he did was really bad. And we came to the conclusion that it had something to do with the Tylenol 3, basically. And that's when he quit doing any kind of prescription drugs. And he was clean for 20 years. And he never did this shit again. Until maybe he was medically kidnapped and they had to use an opiate to calm him down. Okay? So for 20 years, he didn't do any drugs, people, because he wanted to be with me and the kids. And he did really, 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 really good until he fell into the lap of Fraser Health Authority. And even then, when he had his prostate rooted, right, they mistreated him. I have written up on that too. Okay? But they really socked to him when they medically kidnapped him and stole his money and destroyed his life and ruined his family. To the point where we're now dealing with illegal organ harvesting with the big wigs. Okay? Rubbing it in my face. Right? Rubbing in my face, people. That was not coincident. Okay? So anyway, Uncle John earned his respect. He quit his Tylenol 3s, and he never touched me again. And he helped to raise a family who loved him very much. And he didn't care about money. He cared about his family. He forfeited on his superannuation life insurance policy just so that he could be with his family, the kids and me. I don't think I can read this. I'm going to it's only 3 pages. I think there's more in here, though. None of the facts. Okay, Division 1, Defendant's Response to Facts. None of the facts alleged in Part 1 of the Notice of Civil Claim, the claim, are admitted. All of the facts alleged in Part 1 of the claim are denied. The facts alleged in paragraph nil of Part 1 of the claim are outside of the knowledge of the defendant. They should have investigated. That's why I separated them from each other, so that perhaps the bank actually had a moral standing to their customers to which they do not. The facts alleged in paragraph nil of part 1 of the claim are outside the knowledge of the defendant. Division 2, defendant's version of facts. 1. The claim as filed contains irrelevant and incoherent factual allegations. First of all, they're not irrelevant. In terms of incoherent, well, like I said, I didn't have somebody to proofread for me, and I ran out of time, and I was relying on copy and paste between the two lawsuits, right? Because, you know, I was dealing with the same situation, only I had to apply it on 2 lawsuits, right? But for as much as it's incoherent, it's also very coherent. Okay? Factual allegations that fail to articulate any cause of action against CIBC. Hold on a minute. Okay, so let me finish this video. So, that's another thing before John stopped these pills, right? When I lived on Ellery, okay, came from Alberta, stayed at his and Joan's house for a couple of weeks, moved on to Foul Bay, then I went to Ellery, that little apartment thing or whatever it was. He used to come over, right? And do dishes and just whatever, right? And he was still driving. Or no, I had my car. He wasn't driving anymore by that time. Joan would drop him off, right? And he'd just help me with the kids, whatever, do dishes, whatever, right? I don't know. And with the pills, though, he was following people. Not only... See, he didn't reach out and grab me until after we moved into Marigold. And I went out a week after we moved in, and I came back. And I don't know, he just started raging. For whatever reason, something just went bonkers in him, and it was like a 3-hour freaking argument with him running around, chasing me, pulling me down, pulling out my hair, right? I'd get up, run away, he'd come after me, grab me. Well, that guy just basically hid underneath the couch or something. I don't know, he hid underneath something. He went underneath and actually hid underneath something to get away from John and I, as John was attacking me and wouldn't stop. And that's why I threw all his shit out and told him to get the hell out and not come back. And I told his wife to call a taxi to have him pick him up. And she sent him back the next day. Okay. And because I'd already rented the house and everything, I just said, don't you ever do that again. I mean, it came out of nowhere. But prior to that, though, you know, with those Town Law 3s, he'd fall every now and then. I remember one time in Ellery, not a lot, but enough times for me to be concerned, right? Saying, like, you know, you need to cut back on these pills, right? I mean, like I said, he had like 4 or 5 different pills when I got back. And then by the first year was over, he was down to maybe 2 or 3, right? And then I moved into Ellery. And then I said, you know, and then he got down to basically the Tylenol, right? He weaned himself off of these antidepressants and all this other shit that they had him on, right? But he wasn't completely off them, because he used to come over and do dishes, and then I'd find his pills on the floor, and I'd be like, you can't be doing this, John. I got kids in the house, right? Like, you can't be, because he used to keep them in his pocket, right? And he'd pull out his, right? And they'd fall. And then one time he fell when he was walking down the ramp. And I said, this is pathetic, John. You're like, you need to cut back on these Tylenol, right? He didn't do that, people. He didn't stop the Tylenol 3 until we moved into Wally's house. And then on Christmas Eve, he went completely bonkers and just wouldn't stop attacking me. And I had to fight back, and the only way I could fight back was basically biting him, hoping that I'd he'd let go of me, because once he grabbed on, he wouldn't let go. And I guess that's what he used to do to Joan, only he used to do it when they were in bed sleeping. He'd wake up and just, and then, right? So I don't know. It had to been related to the pills, because after that, with at Wally's house, I said, that's it. You need to quit pills altogether, or I'm done. Like, that's just not happening, right? And he knew I was serious, because I'd already left abusive relationships with men. So he knew I was serious when I said, if you don't stop taking these Tylenol, that's it, I'm done. The thing is, though, when he went into the hospital, and after they cleared up his infection, and as they were adjusting his mood with those that OxyContin, right, in terms of they'd overdose him where he'd be really drowsy and slow and and just whatever, and then other days he'd be more alert. Like, there was days he couldn't even put on his shirt, his sweater, people, and I had to help him, or the kids had to help him put on his sweater in the hospital because of the drugs that they were giving him, telling him it was freaking calcium when in fact it was not. Anyway, they asked if he ever fell, and I said, well, the last time John fell was when I lived at Ellery. Marcane was like 10 months old. He wasn't even out of his crib yet. And that's when he was going down that ramp. And that's what I said, which would have been more than 20 years ago. Wow. They started to suggest that he was falling down all the freaking time, which was a flat-out freaking lie. Just like they were accusing me of abusing him, stealing his money. Oh, stupid shit. But yeah, no, he quit all the pills, people, just so that he could be with the kids and me. And then eventually we had Joan move in. And I looked after Joan too.
That. But baby, when she got that skit today, and the other one when I was doing the shop card, she said, baby, that's what I'm talking about.
Listening to trivial stuff. It's just trivial. It takes away from the food shortage videos and the war videos that I watch. Okay. These glasses aren't any better. I was hoping that they would be, but they're not. The claim as filed contains irrelevant and incoherent factual allegations that fail to articulate any cause of action against CIBC. No reasonable claim against CIBC can be discerned from the acts alleged in the claim. At all material times, the plaintiff was a client of CIBC, which is true because I'm still their client after all this time, as if I could start all over again, right? You know what I'm saying? And then, like I say, when I call them up and I want to do something on the phone, they want to verify my voice, that it's me. I say, no, don't you dare. Don't you freaking even try it. Because it's unstable, it's not reliable, and it's a means to be able to cheat people out of stuff. So, like, you need to take it to your board of directors. 4. At all material times, John Bernard Duncan was a client of CIBC. At the time of the events that are at issue in this proceeding took place, Mr. Duncan was approximately 77 years of age. He was 76. Okay, he was 76. He would have been 77 in August. He went into the hospital on January, 13th? And they took him out of the freaking old Yale home old Yale temporary care ward there. Temporary. It was just right, so that he was going to get a little extra physiotherapy on, I think it was February 21st. And they took him out in a hammock, drugged up, and they put him in the bowels of the ferry, and they got to the other side, and as he was coming out of his drowsiness, he started having panic attacks and whatever, and they just rushed him immediately to the Victoria General Hospital, and then tried to say that's how they found him, after he had been in the healthcare system here in Vancouver, Surrey, for 40 fucking days. 40 boo-boo days. In other words, they found him like that in my care, which is a bunch of crock. Okay. Why don't they go and investigate those files? I'd like to see what's inside those files. On or about October 30th of 1990, Mr. Duncan executed an enduring power of attorney appointing the plaintiff as his power of attorney, the Chorney POA. CIBC had the Chorney POA on file since approximately 2001. No, you see, they're not, this is, no. Because you see, when I went and served them, I reminded them, because they tried to keep away the photocopy of the enduring power of attorney when I went to the bank and asked for a photocopy of it. And because I was under investigation of allegations of elderly abuse when it came to financial affairs, they wouldn't give me a photocopy of that enduring power of attorney. I had two powers of attorney. The one in 1990, which is an enduring power of attorney, and then I had the power of attorney that was signed on in 2001, okay? And when I went to serve the papers, I let the guy know that, it took me a while to get a photocopy of the enduring power of attorney. And he asked me, well, how did you get that? I said, well, out of all your staff, there was one bank manager who was actually a good guy and did the right thing. Because he went into the system, and this was before they kicked out my card, people, through one teller illegally, and I have it documented. Because like I said, they like to use specific employees to do this kind of stuff that will do it over and over and over again in order to get the job done. But before that happened, I went and I sat down with the bank manager. I said, okay, this, he opened up, right? Because I had power of attorney, so I could get printouts as to the activities, for the most part, as to what was going on with John's account, right? John's account. And there was something else I was discussing, and then I brought up the subject of, I've been asking for a copy of the enduring power of attorney. Everybody tells me I can't have it. I don't know why I can't have it, because, right, it's, right? I'm in that position, right? And, can you get me a copy? After we go through the statements, I'm like, well, what's this? This is where John's sister opened up this registered savings plan, because she was making plans to transfer that inheritance that he got into that account. And it was probably already there by the time I sat down with that manager, because he kind of got green gills. His whole demeanor just changed, right? And he knew, people, he knew something fishy was up. You see, that's the thing. And that's why when I asked him for a copy of the enduring power of attorney, now you have to remember, I've been asking for over a year for this thing, and I keep being refused, right? I have to go into the dates to verify exactly how long it was, but it was well over a year. And everybody else, no, go get a lawyer, because they all knew I couldn't get a lawyer, right? That's their favorite tactic. Go get a lawyer, knowing that you can't go get one, even though legally they didn't have the right to keep that photocopy away from me, because I was listed as power of attorney, but because they accused me of elderly abuse by stealing John's money as they were depositing large amounts into a registered savings plan that they kept secret, but it still came out on the statement. And then when that bank manager went in and took a look, he realized that I was being hoodwinked. And that's why he just kind of looked around and moseyed off and came back and gave me a copy of the original enduring power of attorney. Because you have to remember, sometimes John was confused, sometimes he wasn't confused. They didn't know which card to play because I had two different power of attorneys. Okay? Whether he was confused, I could still do the banking. Whether he wasn't confused, I could still do the banking. Okay? They're good at their game, people. Okay? Don't do voice verifications. I'm warning you. Don't. CIBC had the Chorney POA on file since approximately 2001. So they acknowledge I had the enduring and the power of attorney. And the plaintiff was authorized under the Chorney power of attorney to exercise control over Mr. Duncan's accounts at CIBC. Well, also the enduring, no. Right? If you notice, they excluded the enduring. Okay? 6. In or about February of 2015. That's when they put him in a hammock, all drugged up, put him in Eleanor's van. She took a ferry while he slept in the van. And then when she got off the ferry, she drove straight to the Victoria General Hospital and told the staff there that is how she found him. As he proceeded to have a nervous breakdown to the point where they had to keep him drugged for weeks on end so that he would sleep it off and forget about me and the kids. As you've got his sister reminding him that he's sick and that he's not allowed to see the kids because we've got her on recording telling him that. Okay? This is what the bank should be investigating. In or about February of 2015, Mr. Duncan's sister, Eleanor, the one who was sitting on an inheritance for 14 months that she failed to tell her brother about because she was plotting and scheming how she could steal it from him. Whether he died and she just wouldn't tell anybody after the fact and kept the money herself, or whether he'd end up in a hospital like he did and then come in and pull the freaking clout card because she was a manager to the provincial immunization program of this province for the employees of the government, and she pulled that clout card as well as probably pay off a few bribes because she knew she was coming into big freaking bucks. And then she proceeded to commit mail fraud, bribe the bank, get people to accuse me of things that weren't true, and destroy her brother's life, and destroy my children's lives, and my grandchildren's, and my life. Okay? Just so that she could get Joan's life insurance money that Joan left John. Eleanor, attending at a CIBC branch, and raised concerns about the plaintiff's access to and use of funds in Mr. Duncan's account. Well, yeah, they took John, and my landlords took actually a hit in rent. Yep, I could only give them $900 a month in rent for 3 months in a row. I couldn't afford to pay out everything, people, right? In terms of the bills, okay? John had been living with me for 22 years. If she was so concerned, why didn't she step in long before then? If she was so concerned, why didn't she help John when he wanted to leave Joan because of what Joan was doing? She had plenty of time to help her brother before I showed up from Alberta, okay? Right? She had plenty of time to rescue John at Marigold, right? When we rented our first house. And then we went on to, I don't remember, it was the townhouse. I don't remember the street it was on. But where was Eleanor then? Why didn't she rescue John then? Oh, well, because he was too young. He didn't have no money. He didn't have no money to take people. Okay? We move over here, right? Why didn't she come over and rescue him? He lived over here for 20 years, people. 20 years. He stopped doing his Tylenol 3 in 1995 when I was pregnant with Shmei because he practically killed me because of his chasing me around the house for 3 hours. And the only way I could get away from him was bite him. And even then, he'd come back and grab my hair. I'm sitting there having a smoke, thinking it's over. Next thing you know, I'm flying like this because he grabbed my hair and pulling me, doing whatever, because he went freaking bonkers. Because of Tylenol 3. That's when he stopped the Tylenol 3, people. Otherwise, he was going to lose me and the kids. And he chose me and the kids. And he was no drugs for 20 years until he went into that stinking, rotten, stupid, filthy, corrupt hospital. And they destroyed him. So this thing could play the rescuer. No, it's because she was sitting on $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $1 million. Who knows? All I know is that bank manager he looked at me and he said, just hold on a minute. And then he came back and he gave me the photocopy to the enduring power of attorney that should have been given to me the first time I requested it. Instead, I had to wait for a year and a bit, almost a year and a half, before finally one decent human being did the right thing. And it's only because of what he's seen, what was going on in John's account after the shenanigans were signed and stamped and delivered, as they are accusing me of what they were doing. You see, Joan was dying every 2 weeks. I know, people. She moved in 2009 when I was at that freaking fourplex, okay? She moved in April or something like that. And then we came in here. She didn't leave here until December of 2012. So I looked after her for 3 years, and trust me, it was no cakewalk. Every 2-3 weeks, like clockwork, she was going to the hospital, having ambulance come pick her up because she was dying of something. Okay, she was popping so many pills that there was too many pills to even count. Okay, she had bulimia, she had anorexia, she had been in and out of mental institutions her whole freaking marriage. Okay, she used to pick and eat her fucking scabs, for crying out loud. Okay, I'm the one, and my kids and Uncle John are the ones who looked after her. Where was Eleanor then? She didn't come and rescue Joan. No. But you see, Joan was a government employee who was always dying and felt that if she left everybody money, that they would love her. You see, that's the thing. So she kept her life insurance policies, and she probably had more than one. She probably just didn't rely on a superannuation life insurance policy. She probably also had other ones that she got through London Life or something like that. So I'm pretty sure it was a big freaking nest egg, okay? And that's why John sat up here one day and said to me, you know, Judy, don't you find it interesting that nobody's calling me about Joan's will? And like months had gone by since she died, right? And I'm like, well, I guess, John, like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to do? And he said, well, I don't want to phone and find out if she had a will because I don't want them to think that I just want her money. That's what he told me, people. It wasn't my place to say, oh, gee, John, oh, you really need to go find out if she left you money. Even though way in the recesses of my mind, I probably, just like whatever. Joan was fucked in the head, right? She moved out. Goodbye, right? I was only there for you, for John. I was there for you, Joan. My kids were there for you, Joan, because of John. I used to take John to go see Joan when she was in the care home for that 1 year, not because of Joan, although I did it for Joan, but I did it more for John, so that John would be happy. Right? And I sure in the hell didn't have Joan over here just waiting for her to die so I could say, gee, John, maybe she left you some money. Yeah, go phone, find out. But he knew, and that's why he asked me, why do you think my family's not calling about her will? I'm like, I don't know, John. I don't know what to say. Right? I don't chase money, people. I don't know if you've noticed that about me. Right? But then there's other people, that's all they live for. Nothing more and nothing less. It's money, 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 and more money. And as they're dying, they're grabbing the money, trying to take it with them in their last freaking breath. That was Joan. And she thought by having life insurance policies that the ones who got the money would love her for her. When in fact it was my kids who actually took 3 years of their life at the worst of her life and helped her through it all, thick and thin. Okay? Where was Eleanor then? Why wasn't she rescuing John? Why wasn't she rescuing Joan? She had I knew John for 35 freaking years, for crying out loud. She had 35 years to rescue John. Bogus people. And that's why the manager, when he got into the RSP with the registered savings plan, took a boo at that. He couldn't tell me what was in there, but his face told me what was in there. And that's when he kind of just wandered off quietly, and got me the photocopy of the enduring power of attorney. Not just the power of attorney. That's all they ever tried to give me, was the power of attorney. That's all they ever fucking tried to act like I had. No, I had 2 of them, people. Whether he was confused or whether he was not. Okay? I didn't push John to push his family to find out where Joan's will was. I thought if it was there, that those people across the water would do the right thing. Being that they respected my kids at that time when they were taking Uncle John across the water to go see his mom. And he was just getting a little too old and wobbly with his blind eyes and bad legs to cross on the ferry by himself. So Marcaine took him over one time, and Shimei took him over one time, and I think even Tisha went over one time. Oh, they loved my kids then. They praised how they looked after Uncle John. You're such good grandkids. They even called them their grandkids. Oh, you look after John so good. We're so proud of you. We're so happy that he has you. But that's when he was broke. But as soon as he had that inheritance, they're not his grandkids. No, you're abusing him. You right? We need to rescue him now. Yeah, okay. I'll show you fucking rescue. John is rolling around in his grave in misery, still in misery to this day. He's waiting for me to die, people. Okay? All right? He is waiting for me to die. Just like Shimei is waiting for me, and so is Sierra. All right? I told you, I walk with the dead. All right? John is not going to get no peace until there is peace. And there is no peace because his sister crawled out of freaking hell. And she needs to go back into the dungeon of the Catholic freaking Church where she belongs, in the dungeon. For all her moral mightiness with her Catholic religion. Let's read this again. Eleanor Ickup attended at a CIBC branch. So she went in person and started complaining about me as she's got Joan's inheritance in her back pocket, not telling John that she has it. And she didn't tell him for 14 months. I can't stress it enough. And that can be proven, okay? Because Joan died in December of 2013. John didn't get sick until January of 2013. That's when I said, John, you need to go to the hospital, okay? And then they started doping him up immediately and kept him pretty much doped up. They only eased up on the dope, the opiate, the OxyContin or Oxycodone or whatever it was that they would give before he'd have his lunch. Because you have to have, see, that's what Sierra told me. They're giving him OxyContin, Mom, because he has to eat lunch. Because they were forcing him. They were forcing him to eat the lunch. He offered for me because he didn't want to eat, right? Because he was so depressed because they weren't releasing him to leave the hospital, right? Or to even leave the freaking temporary care ward. And he said, I don't want to eat. He's not eating or whatever. And he said, here, have some of my food, Judy. We were sitting in the cafeteria. I said, oh, sure, okay, John, you eat. I'll eat a little, right? So I'm just picking at his plate. This bat out of fucking hell, immigrant bat out of hell, flew out of nowhere. Said, don't eat John's food, John, you eat your own food. You have to eat it all. You eat all your food, John. It's because he had taken an OxyContin before lunch, people. And you can't take that unless you take it with food. So not only are they sneaking around giving the old people these pills without them knowing about it, but they're also lurking around in the dinner table watching to make sure that they eat their food and make them eat it. Just so they can continue to connive and scheme and plot and steal. So she goes in person to a branch and raised concerns about the plaintiff's access to and use of funds that I had access and use of funds since 1990 when John wanted me to help him get his own bank account so that he can get on with his freaking life and not be badgered by Joan and Debbie as if he was, their doormat. And then eventually, 3 years after that, then he moved in with me in that house. And then within a week, I threw his ass back out, told him to go fucking back to Joan, and she next day sent him back to me. And then when I was going to go to Vancouver for the second time, John had a choice. He could have stayed, he could have went, got his own place, could have lived with Debbie, could have lived with Joan, could have lived with his freaking sister for all I fucking cared. But no, he wanted to come and be with the kids and me, and he came to Vancouver right along with Cheryl. And then he attacked me, and then it was an ultimatum. You drop the freaking Tylenol or get the hell out of my life. He dropped the Tylenol and he was in my life right until he was medically kidnapped right under our noses because of greed. And he's rolling around in misery right now. Trying to get away from Joan. And use of funds in Mr. Duncan's accounts. First of all, he only had one account. And we were working on paying down his credit card as well as my credit card. Because I got rid of all the bills except the 3 credit cards. His Commerce credit card, my Commerce credit card, which was higher because I was the one that had to take on the debt load, and then the Royal credit card. All the other bills were gone, except for I think I bought the fridge because my landlady told me I had to buy my own appliances. So I bought a fridge and I bought John a mattress that he never got to sleep in. right along with Sierra and everybody else. Whatever. CIBC was provided with an enduring power of attorney dated February 20th of 2015. Yeah, because they put him in a fucking hammock, doped him up on February 21st, people. Took him on